Inflation on the January Paxa food basket increased by 5.7% on a month-on-month basis and 16.5% year-on-year. The food basket is an index for food price inflation, providing insight into the affordability of food and other essential household requirements for working-class households in a context of low wages, social grants and high levels of unemployment. To unpack the latest food price inflation numbers, we joined from our studios in Durban by Mervyn Abrahams, who's director of the Pietermaritzburg Agency for Community Social Change. Mervyn, thanks so much for your time today. I think let's start with how the food basket is compiled.
Thank you for having me, CK, this evening. The Paxa food basket is compiled on a basis around Pietermaritzburg. We generally engage with a number of women in focus groups to determine what kinds of food they buy on a monthly basis. We then construct a list of 36 foods and we track the prices of that foods in 6 retail stores that focuses on the low-income households.
And what did you find in the month of January?
In the month of January, we found that, of course, the basket, as you have said, increased by 5.7%, which is a 113 Rand increase, and which takes the basket now to 2,092 Rand. Now, we have to understand that this is in a context of increasing household crisis of household affordability. The month of January, of course, is a very difficult month for low-income households because it's the month in which children return to school. It's about school uniforms, it's about school fees, etc. So low-income households, working-class households are under immense financial stress.
And that 2,093 Rand is being spent solely on food?
You know, the 2,000, of course, and 92 is what the basket costs. But when we look at the median wage of black South African workers, it is just over 3,000. Yeah. And so plus minus 2/3 of the income coming from wages are spent on food alone. Goodness. And so we are in a situation where we have very low wage trajectory and constantly increasing food prices, and the result is that households have to cut back on their food intake, and this has dire consequences for health, education, economic productivity, etc. for our country going forward.
And just looking at the food basket, I understand that another worrying factor is that it's not nutritionally complete. So what is it that people are buying?
No, the food that we track in the food price barometer is not nutritionally, it's what is the reality that families would like to purchase. However, we do also track a basket that is nutritionally sufficient for a household of 5, and that basket now trends at 3,008 Rand.
Wow, 3,008 Rand if people were getting the full balance nutritionally.
Yes, and you know, when we consider that the discussions around the national minimum wage is 3,500 Rand, then that would just barely buy a basket of nutritious food for a household of 5.
Now, you've been tracking the price of this basket since 2006. What sort of trends have you seen in that time? That's over 10 years.
We've seen a number of different trends. We've seen, of course, people changing their basket and buying different things. So, for instance, we had seen in around 2008-9 the emergence of pasta in the basket. And the reason for pasta is because you use less electricity to cook it. So that's another part about household inflation. But the really interesting thing is around chicken.
Yeah.
As chicken prices increased, households started to buy cheaper cuts and so started to go towards chicken necks. But over the last year, we had seen chicken necks, 6 kgs of chicken necks increase by roughly 70 rand.
Yeah.
So as households go and buy cheaper, so buy the necks in this case, the demand increases and that increases the price.
Okay. So then they have
and
to
so
adjust.
that's creating real difficulty.